Thursday morning, 9 a.m. as we continue in the chilly month of October, even though it might be a little warmer this weekend, but hey, worse temperatures are on the way. But you know what always warms your heart? Or that's at least our attempt to every Thursday morning. It's the Our Town program right here on 94.9 and 99.1 The River. It is brought to you by Decorah Bank and Trust. A little later on in the program, we will talk to Veterans Memorial Hospital CEO Micheal Coyle. He will talk about the upcoming referendum on November 8th. County voters being asked to see if they want to take over ownership of Veterans Memorial Hospital. We'll ask the big questions regarding that, and we had Micheal on because absentee balloting is now underway in the county. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Peggy, Shea will be with us from Helping Services for Youth and Family to discuss issues related to that. A little bit more on the fun side. The Munster Bash Haunted House is taking place in Harmony this weekend, next weekend. It started last weekend. It raises funds for the art students at Fillmore Central High School. Jay Masters will be joining us to discuss that event, and we'll kick off the show this morning. Cool little event coming up in Guttenberg this weekend. Band Together for Good for Youth Mental Health. Molli Marti joins us to have a discussion about that. That is our first guest this morning. You are listening to Our Town on 94.9 and 99.1 The River. Coming up this weekend in Guttenberg is a Band Together for Good for Youth Mental Health event. And here to discuss the event is Molli Marti from the nonprofit organization World Maker. Molli, thanks for the time. Tell us about the event coming up this weekend in Guttenberg. Give us all the details.
Great, thank you, Darren. Yes, I am a native of Waukon, and we are banding together for good, three of us. So I head up a resilience education nonprofit. Rochelle Howe is from Mental Health Today, an organization she started after she lost her husband by suicide and then subsequently two brother-in-laws. And Kyle Selberg owns Lakeside in Guttenberg, and he started this, all three natives of Waukon started the conversation about hosting a fun event to raise funds for the mental health and youth programming we're doing up in Waukon. So the band Triple Threat is going to be playing, and that runs from 7 to 11 this Saturday, October 22nd. And Lakeside opens up for dinner at 5:30, so people can come early and enjoy that. In addition to great music and dancing, we will have raffles and silent auction and some fun games and just different ways to contribute to the work if people are so inclined. No cover charge, goodwill donations, and the door is open to everyone.
And you mentioned all of you being Waukon natives. How did you guys get together on this end of things to raise awareness, money, and all sorts of things for this very important issue? How'd you come up with the idea for this particular event and all of the efforts that you're doing?
Yeah, so it started, like I said, Rochelle runs Mental Health Today. So it started with me serving on that board. I'm still a board member for MHT. It's a very worthy cause of education and awareness of suicide prevention, mental health, or what we call brain health, and just starting to tend to our brains the way that we tend to our physical bodies and remove that stigma around our brain health needs. And so we were doing that work, and I have a model that I developed called the Thrive Resilience Model. The Thrive stands for, it's an acronym, as we researchers like to use, trusted relationships, high expectations, resilience leadership, involvement, vision, and enrichment. So that breaks down into 6 one-hour community education sessions that we have been running. We applied for some grants and had some initial donors. So that covered the first 4 sessions. And we just completed that, and we're trying to finish the next 2 sessions yet this year. So that's how the idea for this fundraiser came to be. And not only is the world a small place, but Waukon, Iowa is a small place. And so we knew each other, Micheal and Kyle and I. We graduated different years, but we were familiar with each other. And so when Kyle saw the good that we were doing, we all share a passion for helping kids and families in our local community. He is the one who said, hey, let's host a fundraiser here. And he is covering the venue and the band, and we're all pitching in different ways. So that's how that came to be. And a fun twist on this, Darren, is that we had another band that initially was going to be playing. And then Kyle got hold of us and said, a switch on the band, but Triple Threat is amazing talent. They're very popular in Northeast Iowa, and they'll come in and play for us. And so that wasn't lost on us, that this Triple Threat comes in after Kyle and Micheal and I were already putting our heads together, the three of us, to do this good work.
And you touched on something that I think is very important, the stigma of mental health. Nowadays, seemingly from the outside looking in, we may be moving in the right direction. It's probably not as fast as we need to when it comes to erasing that stigma, but are we moving in the right direction? As someone who can answer this question better than I could.
Yeah. Yes, I think in some ways a global pandemic did a lot of that work for us. And my work 5 years ago, people would say, well, what is resilience and why does it matter? And now people come and say, your work really matters and we need this. So there is a different starting point, and people are really understanding, and our kids are a very different generation, even than we were. I have 3 young adult children. They really are engaged in these conversations around brain health. They do want to be that peer, that friend for others. This is the work in Elma-Key, and it shifts for every community. But up in Elma-Key County, we started it with adult education and really educating the parents and the service providers, the teachers, the counselors, the pastors and ministers. That's the focus. And then the teachers started bringing high school students to the sessions, and then they started telling their friends. And so we actually have shifted, and it's about 50-50 on some of these sessions where we have high schoolers and young adults who want to come and get this education, but to strengthen themselves and also to be that friend to someone else. So I do think that this conversation is progressing. And we're seeing that we work in some pretty tough sectors besides family and youth. We work with military, we work with first responders. There's a lot of sectors, workplace, that have had a really high level of stigma. Thinking if I raise my hand and say I need some help here, I'm going to get penalized. I'm going to get ostracized. It's going to work against me in my career and how I can function. And we always are trying to help shift that conversation, but we're seeing some big shifts in those conversations. So that's a good thing.
And I know a lot of this in your efforts is focusing on the youth, but when it comes to mental health, it's really, again, my assumption from the outside looking in, it has to deal with people of all ages and their mental well-being, correct?
Absolutely, it does. And what we find is, there's such a role for leadership. There's such a role for the impact of, parents certainly can help children, but when adults or frontline workers and those leaders are taking care of themselves and getting educated, that ripple effect really is profound. That they're the ones that are starting to change the culture, but they're the ones that can see when something's not right and can identify some warning signs and get people to the help that they need. So this is an individual process. And the Thrive model, as you can hear from those acronyms, we have another set of it that works on individual, but we really start with that community approach. Nobody can thrive by themselves. We're relational beings. We need each other in so many ways. And so the more that we can get this education to the people that are in a position to help others, we're all better.
If folks want to receive more education or want to receive some help based on the services that you provide and the conversations and meetings that you provide, how do they get a hold of you, and how do they get involved?
Yes. So our website is www.worldmakerinternational.org, but you can just Google World Maker and you'll find your way to us. and just email info@worldmakerinternational.org. The name Worldmaker, it's pretty interesting. It comes from the literature on veterans. And it's that process that we say when a veteran, a military service personnel moves back into civilian world, they're tasked with remaking their world. They need to create that world in a way that they have meaning and they have that sense of belonging and they have that sense of competence and serve in a way that already those needs are being met. And when we get proactive with some of these processes and help people make their world and provide that education of what are those core human needs we all have and what does that process look like, we are not only helping individuals, but we believe that together we're growing a collective resiliency. And again, a global pandemic, nothing like that to remind us just how connected we truly are.
No doubt about it. Before we run down the event that's coming up in Guttenberg on Saturday night, anything else you want to pass on to the public regarding the work that you guys are doing and how others can get involved, and if there's people who need some assistance, how they can connect with you? Yes.
We always welcome volunteers. So we welcome volunteers to the sessions we're hosting in Micheal. Those have been at the Wellness Center. This month, we tried a lunch and learn session at Veterans Memorial Hospital, and that was well received. So we kind of are moving around locations and times, but we will be hosting the last two sessions in November and December of this year. So people can reach out to me via Worldmaker, or like I said, Walk-On's pretty small. Most people listening might know I'm number 12 of 13, so they probably know a fair amount of my family. And Micheal Howe is a great resource right there. And we have a fantastic board around mental health today. That includes people in the hospitals and the schools and the churches. And so it really is a community effort. So we welcome volunteers to that. We welcome people to participate. It's open to everyone. And then we also welcome people if they want to volunteer at this weekend's event or just come out and have a good time and support the work. Absolutely. And if people need help, help is available. That is one of our key messages. It's a message of hope. It's a message of healing. It's a message of you're not alone and your life has significance. You matter so much. And if you can remember that when you're in a dark place, or at least remember to reach out for help, we can get through these times together, these challenges together. So please, if anyone is listening and needs anything, we are available and we can get you connected to the resources right there in your home community.
And tell us how people can have a fun night out on the town come Saturday night and support all this stuff that you're doing. Give us a reminder of the event coming up Saturday night in Guttenberg.
Yes, so it's at Lakeside Ballroom. There also is a sports bar, so you can come early for dinner. But at the ballroom, we will have the band Triple Threat playing from 7 to 11. We'll be interrupting to be giving away some good stuff as we all play along and throw in a little maybe for a raffle or silent auctions. There's a great giveaway package for the Wisconsin Dells that includes water park passes and I think 5 days at the Dells. There's also giveaways to stay at Lakeside, a beautiful Airbnb up in Northeast Iowa, as well as other fun things. You can expect that there'll probably be a Hawkeye basket and a Cyclone basket, maybe even a UNI basket, right? So something for everyone. And yeah, we'd love to see you there.
All right, Molly, we appreciate you taking some time to tell us about the event, and thank you for all the work you're doing to help improve the world in Micheal County and definitely beyond. Appreciate the time this morning. Best of luck with the event this weekend. And again, thank you for what you guys are doing for our community.
Thanks, Darren. Appreciate this conversation.
Molly, Marti joining us coming up Saturday night. Band Together for Good event taking place at Lakeside in Guttenberg. It's going to be open for dinner at 5:30, and Triple Threat will be performing from 7 until 11 Saturday night. We're having a conversation this morning with Jay Masters, and he's here to discuss the Munster Bash. And it's that time of year for events such as these. Jay, thanks for taking the time. Tell us about the Munster Bash.
Well, Darren, Munster Bash is a nonprofit organization that puts on a haunted house every year. The haunted house is called the Monster Bash. The organization is Monster Bash Incorporated. This is our 10th haunt that we've put on. The organization was founded to support the arts at Fillmore Central High School, and in 10 years, or in 9 years, I should say, we've given back just short of $113,000 to support the arts. Our haunt is a little bit unique in that it changes every single year. We tear it down and start from scratch. As soon as the one season is over, we put everything away, we tear down the walls, we put everything into storage, and we start planning for next year. Every haunt is different in that there's a different theme. There's a different floor plan, so the layout is all different, different scares. We tell people if you come from year to year, you will not see anything duplicated.
How do you come up with the ideas for the haunts?
Well, in the initial startup, when the first few years, it was myself. I would go online and research ideas and things. But then later we incorporated and became a nonprofit. We're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. And when we did that, I started having a committee. And we will come together probably in early January, and we will come with ideas for individual scares or individual rooms or overall theme ideas. Usually there's a story that goes with each one of our haunts, and so it kind of follows you through. It takes you through a story, if you will, as you're going through. And so then we'll talk about all the options on the table, and we'll just start eliminating some until we get to what we think is going to be the best option for us that particular year. Then we do some additional brainstorming to say, okay, what are some room ideas that would be appropriate with this particular theme? What are some scares that might be appropriate with this particular theme? And then I take all the ideas back and sit down with my computer and lay out a floor plan. And that usually gets tweaked 2 or 3 or 4 times before it's all finished. But we have a rough idea that we start with, and then we just start developing the idea and the theme until we're ready to actually start construction.
So you kind of take Halloween and make it a 12-month-a-year kind of thing, don't you?
It is for some of us, yes. Some of us on the board. I'm actually already working on ideas and things for next year. So yes, for me, it is definitely a 12-month out of the year event because it takes a lot of planning to come up with ideas and to build the haunt itself. We'll start building the haunt right after the 4th of July because it'll take us 2 or 3 weeks of weekends to just get the physical structure put up. And then after that, we have to do the lighting and the sound effects and the special effects and the decorating and all the things that go with it.
Where is this located?
We're in Harmony, Minnesota, and we're in what used to be known as Slim's Woodshed, if people know where that is. I believe the address is 150 First Avenue, or First Street Southwest, I believe, or Northwest, First Street Northwest in Harmony. Everybody in Harmony knows where the Monster Bash building is. So if you get there, all you have to do is ask anybody. The quick trip sends a lot of people our way, I guess. But we're not too hard to find.
And what are the hours of operation between now and Halloween?
Okay, that's a great question. This coming weekend, we will be open Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Friday, we will open at 7 and we will be open until 10. On Saturday, that's our long day of the year. We'll open at 5 o'clock on Saturday and we will be open until 10. And then on Sunday, we will open at 7 and we'll close at 9 because it's a school night. Because a lot of our actors are high school students. So we make sure that we don't keep them out too late on school nights.
Always a good idea. Mom and Dad probably appreciate that as well. And
right.
How much does that cost to attend this Monster Bash?
The Monster Bash admission is $13 unless you have purchased a Monster Bash t-shirt, and then you get $3 off your admission, so it's only $10 to go through. The one thing I'd like to mention too is we're cheaper than a lot of the other haunts that you'll run into all along Iowa and Minnesota. However, MinnesotaHauntedHouses.com has rated us the #1 Halloween attraction in the state of Minnesota for the last 4 years.
Wow.
And no other haunt has even been named that twice, let alone 4 years in a row. So we're pretty excited about that. We think that we do a really good job of entertaining people. We'll use, there'll be 32 live actors in the haunt this year. We use animatronics, which are things that move by themselves. We'll use fog, blacklight effects, some other special effects, sound, music. We use a lot of different things to vary the haunt and give you a lot of different experiences as you're going through.
And from what I understand, you have kind of a reduced fright option for patrons. Is that correct?
That's right. For people that don't like to be really scared, or people who maybe have a heart condition, or if you have young children and you don't want to, traumatize them, we have a less scary option. And what we do is we give each group a glow stick, and that glow stick indicates to our live actors that that group is a no scare group. So it's tamed down considerably. That way you can go through, you can see the costuming, you can see all of the decorations, all the special effects, but you won't have people jumping out and trying to scare you. We say it's all the fun without the fright.
And you mentioned the t-shirts, the crew sweats, and the hoodies are available. Where do you purchase those?
Those are right when you come in the door. So before you buy your ticket to go through, you're given the option if you'd like to buy a t-shirt, a crew neck sweatshirt, or a hoodie. And when you, if you decide to purchase one of those, then you get a $3 off your admission, and that's good for every time if you wear the shirt and you come back in 2 or 3 or 4 times, you get the $3 off every time if you've got this year's shirt on.
And another thing to point out: bring your cash. Correct?
Right. We aren't currently set up to accept plastic. We accept cash, and we will accept checks if they're not from too terribly far away. We've never had a problem with that before, but we do accept cash and checks.
Anything else you want to mention about the Munster Bash over the next few weeks in Harmony?
Well, just that it's a lot of fun. We have people that come back year after year after year. We've got a family from down by Des Moines that they come back every year. They heard about us kind of by accident. They were in the area and came, and they said, you know what, we love this. And they come back every single year. We'll draw from like 5 states every year. Our haunt has become fairly well known and very well respected in the region. And so we'll draw. We've got people that are coming, I know, from Indiana this year. We've got people from Wisconsin, Iowa, Minnesota, of course. And then, like I say, it's hard to tell wherever everybody will come from year to year. And some come specifically, like I say, from a great distance just to come to our haunt. I know that there are 3 or 4 or 5 groups that will drive like 3 or 4 hours to come specifically for our haunt. So we think we're doing a pretty good job if they're coming from that distance on a consistent basis.
When you started this thing 10 years ago, did you ever dream that people would be coming from that far away?
I absolutely did not. This whole thing started as a little thing for trick-or-treaters on my back porch, and it just has exploded. And no, I never dreamt that it would become as big as it is, as successful as it is, and draw from so far away, as you mentioned. It's mind-blowing sometimes just to see how large it has become. But it's been a lot of fun. There's a lot of people that put a lot of hours into this to make it successful, and to keep people coming back from year to year.
All right, Jay, we appreciate you taking some time to talk about the Munster Bash Haunted House up in Harmony, open all weekend and next weekend as well, prior to Halloween and including Halloween itself. We wish you best of luck and great job of supporting, most importantly, the young men and the young women at Fillmore Central High School and the arts. That's a great thing you're doing with a lot of fun you're having, and it doesn't get much better than that, does it?
No, it doesn't. Thank you, Darren. I appreciate you taking time to do a little interview with us today.
Jay Masters from the Munster Bash Haunted House, munsterbashhauntedhouse.org, the website to check out. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and with us to discuss the all-important issue of domestic violence is Peggy Shea with Helping Services for Youth and Family. And Peggy, we'll start the conversation this way. What is the definition? What is domestic violence? How is it defined?
Basically, domestic violence in the simplest term is a way that an abuser uses power control over the person they are with in order to basically control their actions and what they say. a lot of times we talk about domestic violence as a relationship and people struggling with issues. More than that, it's their use of control over someone else. And it can include physical violence, it can include emotional, verbal abuse, financial abuse, technological abuse. All those different things are included within that terms. It doesn't just have to be the physical part of it.
And I know when we talk about this issue, we talk a lot about relationships. And the reason I asked for the definition is it's a little more, in fact, a lot more encompassing than meets the eye. Is that a fair way to put it?
Yeah, absolutely. There are a lot of facets that are included in domestic violence that most people don't think of. On those terms, they could see an argument in public, but what could really be happening behind the doors is something completely different, where it looks like a regular relationship argument. There's a lot more going on because there's a lot more history that most people don't know about within that argument.
How do you know you're a victim of domestic violence? How do you know that it's affecting you in a negative way, a certain situation?
I would say that it's, you are when you realize that you can't control certain areas of your own life. Like, there's certain people you can't talk to. You have to get permission to go to the store. You're basically scared or to just be in your own house. It's that level of what part of my life is I'm not able to control anymore because somebody else has to tell me or feels a need that they can tell me how I need to act in certain ways.
And for people that are dealing with these situations, what services does Helping Services have to assist them?
We provide a large array of services. It can just be emotional support if you just need someone to talk to about what's going on. A lot of times we just get phone calls of, I don't know if this is a domestic violence situation. And so it's just talking with them and helping them identify why they think they might be in a domestic violence situation. We also provide a lot of different resources. We can a lot of times help if they're fleeing a situation, help with a month's rent. If they're fleeing, we do have the option sometimes to put them up in a hotel room if they don't have a safe place to go. Basically, whatever resources they need or what they think they need, what we'll do is talk with them, and we kind of direct our services on what their needs are. And so we find a way to help them where they're at that point in time. So there's a lot of different services we have. We also have our transitional housing program, which is a program where we can help house a person for up to 2 years. Because a lot of times when a victim is fleeing from domestic violence, they don't have the financial support to be able to sustain that. And so, like, that's one of the questions, I guess, when we see domestic violence, is a lot of people always ask, well, why do they go back? They may have tried to leave numerous times, but they don't have the ability to not go back, just on a financial standpoint.
And how important is it just making people aware that there is help out there? So if they're in these situations, that they get to the point where they can contact somebody willing to help them, because is that, just from the outside looking in, is that one of the toughest things of people in these situations, knowing the fact that there's help out there and getting them to reach out?
That is one of the most difficult things. Luckily, we've been very good at getting our information out there, and we have our crisis line that someone answers 24 hours a day. We do work closely with law enforcement, so they have our little packets that if they get involved in a situation, they can call us and refer someone so we can get involved right then. All the hospitals, clinics have our information, all the therapists, schools. We do have a couple advocates that go into the high schools, the middle schools yearly and do talks. And so that's part of one of the big parts of our job is just doing outreach and getting our information out there.
How do people contact helping services if they are in need?
We have a couple different options. We do have our crisis line. Like I said, it's someone's on it 24 hours a day. So we don't have certain working hours. We kind of go all over. And that number is 1-800-383-2988. We do also have a chat option where they may not be able to talk on the phone depending on their situation. But if they get onto our website, we do have a link on there where they can chat, and there's an advocate on that 24 hours a day also, so they can talk to us through the computer. So those are their two main ways that they get through to us, I guess.
And you brought up the situation where law enforcement sometimes reaches out to you. Sometimes these situations don't reach a law enforcement level. How important is it to make sure that there's people like you and helping services out there? Because I'd imagine there's some tentativeness if it reaches a law enforcement level, because that becomes a matter of public record and people want to keep this stuff quiet.
Yeah, and that's the majority of our clients don't actually reach out to law enforcement. And so it's just, like I kind of said earlier, is just getting into all those other nooks and crannies where they may be talking to a friend and the friend had seen our number on a bathroom door. Like it's kind of that simple. We have our flyers up in a lot of different restaurants, just all over the place. We just try where we think someone may see the number and they jot it down. And because a lot of times we'll get our first phone calls from people I was talking with my friend and my friend gave me this number because she thought I could use you, or she thought you might be able to help. Situations like that.
Anything else the public needs to know about this all important issue? Anything else you want to pass along?
I would just say is a lot of times it's an issue that people don't want to think about or don't want to believe is happening, but there is in our area a really high need. We've actually been very, very busy lately. We get new clients almost every day, and so it is affecting people, whether it affects you directly or not. It could be affecting someone you know, someone you love. It affects most people in some way, whether they know it or not.
Peggy, we appreciate you taking some time to talk about Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and we appreciate you taking the time, and we thank you and everybody else at Helping Services for what they provide our community.
Thank you, and thank you for helping get out the information for us too. We really appreciate it.
Peggy Shea from Helping Services for Youth and Family. Having another conversation with Veterans Memorial Hospital CEO Micheal Coyle. The referendum coming up for City of Waukon and Allamakee County voters on November 8th on whether the county wants to make a Veterans Memorial Hospital a county-owned facility as compared to a city-owned facility. And since absentee balloting is getting close to getting underway, we decided to break down some of these issues that are facing the county right now. And Micheal, the first question I'll ask you is, how did we get to this point? Why is this potential change necessary to move it from a city-owned to a county-owned facility?
Well, thanks, Darren. I'm glad to be with everybody again today. You know, November 8th is going to be a really big day for VMH. You know, currently we are city owned, and the movement from city to county allows us to get some appropriations, some tax levy dollars that we can use for capital purchases, things like roofs and infrastructure and windows and whatever else we need to keep the 70-year-old building going. Now's the perfect time. You know, the last couple of years, we've had some dollars that we've gotten from the COVID relief funds, which allowed us to do some things here on campus, including, you know, flooring, and we've added cardiac systems and nurse call systems and new beds and some infrastructure. But we been putting a lot of Band-Aids on things. And as we start to grow our organization, we're finding very quickly that we have a few areas that just need more space. They need to be updated to meet the expectations of our patients within the county.
And looking at this issue brings into the next question of the financial stability of Veterans Memorial Hospital right now. How is the hospital doing presently when it comes to finances?
Well, we're not going to close anytime soon, which is a great thing. We're about a break-even facility right now. The last couple years, pre 2019, 18, 19 and in 18, excuse me, those 2 years we struggled a little bit, and that's about the same time that Mayo decided to exit Waukon. That had a huge negative impact on our facility. We lost 7, 8 very good providers. And that was a lot of volume that ended up going over to Winneshiek and to Gunderson and La Crosse. And so that was huge for us. The last couple of years, Roxanne, our CFO, has done an amazing job making sure that we right the ship, that we've taken a look at operational pieces here. We've added service lines. We've added obviously 2 clinics, one here in Waukon 18 months ago, and the newest one in Postville in early July. That has allowed us to have some downstream revenue in the hospital in areas like lab and radiology and therapy and surgery. So those dollars are helping us get close to break even. But even at break even, there's no money for infrastructure updates. There's no money for some of those larger things that we have to do over the next few years. So financially, it's a little good, it's a little bad, about break even. But break even, like I said, just does not allow us to keep on expanding and add services that our patients need.
Why is it important for Veterans Memorial Hospital to remain a independent entity as compared to potentially merging with a Mayo or a Gunderson?
Well, right now we have a great partnership with Gunderson. They're on one side of the campus, our clinic's on the other side of the campus. The providers at Gunderson do an amazing job of putting patients in our hospital. They work with us to help cover inpatients, and they help us cover emergency room and some of those other services. But at the end of the day, the board really wants to be independent. It's difficult for an organization that has a home office 200 miles away to really understand what has to be done in the local community. So our board of directors has made it pretty clear that they want local control by folks in the county and people who know what we all go through. We know our conservative nature. We know what kind of care that we want to receive. So we want to make sure that leadership and that ownership stays local. The other thing, and we're able to stay very nimble, Darren. And what I mean by that is if we need to make a kind of a right-hand turn to meet a regulation or to meet an external force, we can do it pretty quickly. We have basically no levels of bureaucracy that tells us, hey, we can't do that. And then finally, we don't have policies, procedures in a one size fits all. So when you're in a large system like that, you may come up with one best practice that has to be done by 8 or 9 facilities, even though it doesn't make sense inside those facilities, reducing efficiencies and decreasing employee engagement. So all those things tells us we need to stay independent.
When it comes to the hospital's governing board, the board of trustees, if this vote is a positive vote, how would the board of trustees structure change? Who would get to vote on that board of trustees, etc.?
Well, the board of trustees would definitely change because we're city owned. All the board of trustees are required to be within Waukon proper. Okay. Once we go to county, we really hope that folks from all over the county want to sit on the hospital board. There are no districts for the hospital board. That's been a question asked several times. But statute doesn't require us to have districts. And quite frankly, most hospitals our size don't have trustee districts. So everybody's at large. We encourage people from Harper's and New Albin and Lansing and Postville to petition to be on the board. So after the election, the board of supervisors will appoint the first board. It'll go from 5 people to 7 people. And then those folks will work the transition for 12 months. In the next voting cycle in 2023, every one of those that were appointed are now up for election. And then once we get 7 elected, 4 will be randomly drawn out of a hat for a 4-year term, and 3 will randomly be drawn for a 3-year term. And then we'll continue to cycle that as we move forward. And like I said, the goal is to have representation from all over the county and not just from the city of Waukon.
Of course, this is going to have an effect on people's pocketbooks and people's property tax bill. I always hesitate to ask what would an average home, because who knows what an average home is. There's a lot of factors outside of all of our controls related to valuation of property. But when it comes to property taxes, what would a positive vote mean to a normal Allamakee County property owner?
Well, the first of all, the levy that we're looking at is $950,000. So we know we live in a conservative county. We didn't want a levy amount that was above $1 million. We felt that that's just not fair to the voters. And quite frankly, $1,950,000, a little bit more than that, is really what our annual depreciation is. And so that's where that levy amount goes. It allows us to fund that depreciation and continue to work on capital equipment. Now, what's it going to cost? If you take the taxable value, and this is what's important, not the resale value, not what you think you can purchase a home for, it's actual taxable value. The mill rate's $1.09 per thousand. So you take your taxable value times 0.00109, and you're going to have a pretty good idea what your tax rate is.
So, in other words, it isn't like this is going to make up even 50% of hospital revenue or anything like that. It's basically, from the outside looking in, tell me if I'm wrong, it kind of provides a little bit of a cushion for the hospital financially to not be on that break-even balance point financially. Is that a fair synopsis?
That's a fair synopsis, Darren. Really, those dollars are going to be used strictly for capital. And so right now, if we don't have dollars for capital, we just don't do it. We put a Band-Aid on stuff. And we know that's not the right way to handle equipment or a building, because the more Band-Aids you put on when you finally fix it, it becomes way more expensive. So this slight levy allows us to look strategically for years to come. So if we know we're going to have $1 million roof and we've got another $1 million worth of infrastructure that is high in our list, we know that we can complete those things in 2 years, but also have levy income for year 3, 4, and 5 for other things that are going to pop up. And we don't have to be so reactive. We can be proactive and use those funds even better. And that's really what we're designing to do. We really want to use those funds to think strategically and prioritize what we need to get done. But by no stretch of the imagination is it enough to fund everything we have to do. We still have to have a positive operating margin. We still have to be very judicious in the dollars that we spend, and we have to be as efficient as possible. That will not change. We're still, even though we're not for profit, we have to run the business like it is for profit. I like to tell staff, no margin, no mission. If you don't have something there, you can't do what you want to do. So you got to have something in the bank.
With a positive vote coming up on November 8th, you talk about these capital improvement. What tops the list of those capital improvements that you would go after first if the positive vote happens on November 8th?
Well, we have an electronic medical record system that is antiquated at best. It's not used by anybody in the region except for us. It was what we could afford 4 or 5 years ago, but it's not the most efficient EMR, electronic medical record. It doesn't communicate with the Gundersons, the Mayos, or Prairie du Chienes of the world, the University of Iowa, very well at all. So that would probably that would be our first dive in, is to replace our electronic medical record. We like to call it portability, Darren. That's when, if I go from here to somewhere else, my record can follow me. The providers can dive into the record and see what's happening in the local clinic, so they can have a good continuity of care. That's so important. Also, the system that we're looking at has way more efficiencies built in. Right now, our providers spend way too much time tapping away on a keyboard, trying to find what they need in a record, and not enough time with their patients. And that's just not fair to the patient. So we need to build some efficiencies into this thing, and then make sure we can communicate with all of our strategic partners like Gunderson and Mayo and University of Iowa and the other folks in the region. Then after that, after that, we've got a big roof project that we have to do. And then if you take a look at the overall infrastructure, the sewer, the plumbing, our parking lots, if you take a look at some of that stuff, it's in sorry state. And, our patients need to make sure when they come in that our infrastructure will set us up for any renovation that we need to do in the upcoming years.
And when you look at your current structure at Veterans Memorial Hospital being a city-owned facility, that's kind of rare in the state of Iowa nowadays, correct?
Yeah, there's very few city-owned entities. And the reason is because there's no access to levy amounts. So, to be city-owned right now, our biggest benefit is we get IPERS for our employees, which is fantastic, the Iowa Public Employee Retirement System. We have access to our tax-free or area, so we don't have to pay taxes on our supplies and equipment. So not quite not for profit. We just don't have to pay those taxes, which is great. And we get a little bit of credit in sewer and water, less than $50,000 in the year. And then if we need the city for, they'll come and paint lines, and if we need their equipment and they'll let us, they'll come in and help us out a little bit. But really, there's no levy dollars. And what I think a lot of people fail to remember is that if there's a positive bottom line at the hospital, it doesn't flow over to the city. Likewise, if we lose money, it doesn't flow over to the city. Everything is contained within the hospital proper.
And if this vote becomes a positive one on November 8th, will that have any impact on emergency medical services?
It doesn't. And I think that's really important. We have 6 ambulance districts here in Almaty County, and each one is sacred to their community, right? As a recovering paramedic for 20 years, I understand how working as a paramedic or an EMT in a community, you're taking care of your friends and neighbors. And when you're sick, you want those faces to come in and take care of you. You don't want strangers. And so we're dedicated to ensure that EMS doesn't change. Now, if something happens to an ambulance service and they can't cover a call because of lack of staff, we're going to be there for you. We're going to do our best. We're not flush with staff by any stretch of the imagination either, but we're going to be there. If it's a BLS or a basic life support call and they need advanced life support, so we do an intercept, and that's where we meet together and take care of the patient, we're going to do that. That's in the best patient interest. But by no stretch of the imagination do we want to take over any of the ambulance services. That's not something we've discussed. The dollars received from our levy does not impact EMS. The way that we fund our trucks is by the 7 townships in the city of Waukon, and then some dollars from the county, which they give us $5,000. It's not a ton of money, but it's something. We'll take it. And that helps cover some of those transfers and some of those calls outside of the Waukon district. But otherwise, things are going to be status quo. And we're doing that on purpose, right? We don't want to take over those ambulance services. Mm-hmm. We want them to stay local by local people.
And when it comes to the vote itself, is it a simple majority needed to pass?
Yes, it is. And so this gets a little complicated. I'll try to make it as easy as possible. Let's just assume that 1,000 people from Waukon proper, go and vote. So those folks, those 1,000 folks, we need 501, just a simple majority. Then we throw all those votes back in the hat again, and we add, let's say, 2,000 more in the county. So now a total of 3,000. We need 1,501. Because the vote, if you live in Waukon, you're voting to give up the hospital, but then everybody in the county is voting to take on the hospital. So it's a little weird, but it's still only one vote. So, but yeah, simple majority. And what will happen is once that vote is done on that Thursday, the following week, the auditor will certify that vote or convey the vote. And then just like that, all the assets from the city, from the hospital get transferred over to the county. And we become county managed. Yep.
And how long of a process is it? Is it going to happen pretty quick if the vote is a positive one?
Yeah, it happens instantaneously,
Okay.
actually. And then there's some work that Roxanne, my CFO, and I and the board will have to do on the backside. We'll have to work with the city a little bit. I mean, there's abstracts that need to be updated and those type of things. But really, statute basically says that upon convey of the vote, the assets immediately get moved from city to county, and that's right in statute.
We'll let you guys take care of all the boring stuff, right?
Yeah, that's the boring stuff of this thing, all that paperwork, but it's important. We want to make sure we do it right. And that, the city has treated us pretty well for decades, but it's time for us to move from city to county and be part of all the other hospitals in Iowa that are county owned, have access to some levy dollars so we can make sure that we have the tools and equipment when you need us.
And early voting pretty much going to be starting here in the not too distant future. If people want to not wait until election day to get their voice opinion out there, what do they do?
Yeah, so if you go to the Almaty County elections.iowa.gov/vote, I know that's a lot of stuff, but anyway, basically you're just going to go and grab a ballot from the courthouse, and then you can vote. It has to be done. Early voting ends 20 days before November 8th. So if you do the math, it's October 19th, and then it ends at about 5 p.m. the night on the 19th. And so you can check with the auditor's office for more information. But that, if you can't be here on the 8th, we really, really want you to get out and vote. We want to see the support that we have in the county for what we're doing. The other thing is you can do it by absentee ballot, and that has to be returned by 5 p.m. 15 days before the election. And I had to make some notes here. October 24th is when the absentee ballots have to be returned. And when you go to our website, which is veteransmemorialhospital.com/vote, yes, this information's on there. And it talks about how to do the absentee ballot. It talks about the early ballot. Plus, it also gives you a bunch of testimonials, videos, facts, and questions. It lists all of our community forums, which we encourage people to come to. Been a little surprised. They haven't been super well attended. Amazing questions. But, this time of the year, we're trying to get crops out and school has started. I totally get it. But this is your opportunity to hold our feet to the fire and ask a lot of questions. So we have a bunch coming up yet in Postville and Waukon. And again, if you own a small business, if you got a group of people that want a presentation or just to sit around a table and talk about it, all you have to do is reach out to Aaron Behrens or my executive assistant, Liz Hoynes, and we'll get it set up. It's easy for us to do. We really want people to know the information so they're informed.
Anything we're missing? Anything else you want to pass on regarding the vote coming up on November 8th?
Not so much the vote, but we have some amazing news. We've been working on our behavioral health program with the help of county social services and Almaty County Board of Supervisors who gave us funds. We launched that clinic on the 17th. So renovation is done. Tara is seeing patients on the 17th. And this is such a needed service in the region. We listened, we heard, we were able to start that clinic, and Tara's already starting to fill up. So, and if you need behavioral or mental health treatment, you can call. You don't need a referral from your primary care provider. Please, let us help you out with that. The other great news is I got Alex Behrens, a local guy here, owns a home right on the golf course, grew up in the area. He also starts seeing patients in our walk-on clinic on the 17th as well. His schedule's already starting to fill up. So, we heard a year and a half ago, we need more access to healthcare, and that's what we're doing. And this ties in with what we're doing from a county perspective. We really want people to stay local for their healthcare. When care stays local, our employees stay local, and that's really what we want.
Michael, appreciate the time and the information about the upcoming vote and other things regarding Veterans Memorial Hospital. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody.
Michael Coyle with the Veterans Memorial Hospital, the vote coming up on November 8th. A thank you to our guest on the program this morning, Marti. She will be a part of the Band Together for Good event taking place at the Lakeside Ballroom and Sports Bar in Guttenberg this Saturday night from 7 o'clock until 11 o'clock. Lakeside will open at 5:30 for dinner that night, all for the cause of youth mental health. We appreciate Molly joining us. If you want to have some fun and maybe get frightened a little bit this weekend, the Haunted Munster Bash. The Munster Bash hauntedhouse.org, by the way, is the website, Munster Bash hauntedhouse.org. That's taking place in Harmony this weekend and next weekend. The coolest part about it, it raises funds for Fillmore Central Arts students. Jay Masters, we thank you for joining us as well. The serious issue of domestic abuse, we appreciate the information and the resources being known to be out there from Peggy, Shea from Helping Services for Youth and Family, and of course the all-important Veterans Memorial Hospital vote coming up on November 8th in Ellicott County. We thank Michael Coyle for joining us and telling us all about that event. Don't forget, each and every week we put these shows up on YouTube. We know you can't always be near a radio or a streaming device at 9 o'clock on a Thursday morning, but we feel this content is important from a community perspective, important from an information perspective, and every now and then important from an entertainment perspective as well. And we want to bring the content to you on your schedule. So like for this show, just go to YouTube 10/20/Our Program. You can find it there, and we also put the links up on all of the Facebook pages for the LA communication stations, 94.9 and 99.1 The River, Hawk Rock 100.5, Bluff Country 103.5 KNEI, and, of course, Classic Hits 104.7 KVIK. So another way we try to serve our audience at LA Communications. Next week on the show, going to talk a little health insurance, and we're probably going to go into the toy department a little bit more than we usually do. Of course, state cross country is next week. We'll talk to some coaches preparing their teams for that event. We'll probably going to have a chance to talk to Sharon Goodman with the Iowa women's basketball team, as they are ranked number 4 in the country, and she's coming back from her ACL surgery from a year ago. Let's see. I think we'll also have a chance to talk to Jim Sims with the Senior Health Insurance Information Program. All sorts of information that's coming up next week on Our Town. We thank you to our sponsor, Decorah Bank and Trust. A thank you to our guest. And most importantly, a thank you to you for tuning in, for logging on, or for watching Our Town on 94.9 and 99.1 The River.